All right, so for this activity, I'll be focusing on a demographic of adult learners. This is going to be a bit non-traditional. This will be part of a library program through a literacy program. And so this is a English learners book club, and we are going to be focusing primarily on just reading English text so that English learners can learn to analyze and critique English text and overall help them increase their vocabulary so they can use that in conversational English. This will be part of a 2-week session where they're going to be covering a short story called A Kind of Love. This is part of the first session in the exploring stage. All right, let's get started. Okay, everybody, so we have covered now the first half of the short story, A Kind of Love. Remember that we want to make sure we have our copies available. However, this will always be on the Google Classroom so that afterwards you can read that on your own. If you have trouble accessing the Google Classroom, please let me know so that I can figure out what's going on, or I can send it simply to your email. This presentation I'm going to be going over right now will also be made available on the Google Classroom, but once again, it can be emailed to you. So in this case, let's get started. What is a context clue? So that might be a question you're like, oh, I don't know. So let's start off very small. Do we know what the word clue means?
Ways to find things.
Yes, it's a way to find things. Perfect. And so context very much is what we're going to be focusing on here. Context has to do with kind of the situation that's happening, typically in a sentence or a paragraph. So in this case, we're going to be like detectives and figuring out what some words mean. So the precise definition of a context clue is context clues are words or phrases in a sentence or paragraph that can help you find out the meaning of a word you do not know. So as I mentioned, we're going to put on our detective hats and figure out how we can find these unknown words. So for context clues, we have about a few different ways. This is just a handful of them. There's about 2 more different ways that we won't be covering. But we have this acronym here to help you remember it. So an acronym is basically when they take the initials of something and they squish them together. So that way you can remember them a bit easier. So we have the acronym IDEAS. So the I stands for inference, D for definition, E for explanations, pardon, that should be examples, A for antonyms, and S for synonyms. So do we have any of these words where we're not sure what they mean?
Inference.
Inference. Ooh, lovely. Very good question. So inference essentially is something that is more implied, like not said completely directly, like, saying, oh, she's short, It's more like saying something like, oh, she's not perhaps the tallest person in the world, or she's able to fit through a hobbit door. You're not saying she's short, but they're short. So that is an example of inference. But I won't be going too much into that today because we're going to be covering that one at next week's session a bit more because you can explore it. So we're going to bounce ahead to the D in the acronym, which is definition. So a definition, remember, is essentially something that explains what something is. So a definition context clue is very much when the unknown word is explained within the sentence. So an example of this, can I have someone read this example?
Yes, me.
Oh, fantastic, go ahead.
I had to check under the car hood, which is where the engine is. That's at the front of the car.
Yes, thank you so much for reading that. So, pardon my mistake, there should be a space between is and where. I was typing too fast. But in any case, we have the word hood. Hood is our unknown word in this situation. Mm-hmm. Now we're going to be looking for the words in this little section that give the definition for the word hood. So in this case, I'll offer this one because we have another one we can practice on together. So in this case, we have hood, and it states which is where the engine is. That will be our definition for this one because it explains what is a hood. It explains that it's the location where the engine is in a car. So for our second sentence, if I could have someone else read this sentence, please.
Uh, Skyscrapers, which are very tall buildings, can be found in cities like Los Angeles.
Thank you so much. So yes, we have our unknown word, which is skyscrapers in this case. So can someone give a guess to what the definition for skyscrapers is in this sentence?
Very tall buildings.
Ah, lovely. That's exactly it.
I copy from it.
I see you both got it. All right. So yes, skyscrapers are very tall buildings. And here's a little bit of a hint for definition context clues. Oftentimes, the definition can be located between two commas to help sort of give it. It's very separate. So that's a hint.
That's interesting.
Yes, right? It's always really interesting to see how English works.
Yeah.
All right, so we move on to our next one, which is the E. That is example. That's it. All right, so for an example context clue, essentially they give specific examples in the sentence that help define the unknown word. So let's look at this example. I'll read this one really quickly. So my sister has a lot of devices, okay? That's our unknown word, such as a laptop, a TV, an iPad, 2 cell phones, and a new Apple Watch.
Ooh.
Right? That's a lot. So in this case, what do you think the word devices means?
Electronic things.
There we go. I love it. You're giving each other answers. So yes, they are electronic things. That's exactly it. So this is an example of what this context clue looks like. It just gives a list oftentimes. So let's look at the second one. All right, could I have someone read the second one, please?
The zoo has many reptiles, like lizards, snakes, and turtles.
Yes, thank you so much for reading that. All right, so our unknown word here is reptiles, all right? So what do you think reptiles are based on the examples?
Small animals.
They are small, yes. There's a little bit more for them, but yes, they are small. What else? What else are they?
Animals that you find in the desert.
Oh, you can find them in the desert. That's very true. But they can also be found in other places too. So what makes them different from other animals?
They don't fly.
Oh, that's very true. They don't fly. Okay, so that's something that also unites them. Yes. What else?
I already said small animals.
You
right?
did. Yes, you did say
Okay.
small animals. No worries. Oh, we have a guess?
No.
All right. So in any case, I'll sort of center this a little bit more. So in this case, they are small animals. So they can't fly. But in this case, these ones are what we call cold-blooded animals. So in this case, it means something like an animal that kind of lays eggs, you know? But that's like not a bird. And so they can survive, and typically they have overall low body temperatures.
Okay.
So we call those cold-blooded.
Falta uno.
All right, now our fourth one is an antonym. All right, so I'll just jump straight into this. Antonyms are opposites, basically. So you know?
Yes.
So in this case, an antonym context clue is a word or a group of words that has the opposite meaning of the unknown word that can be found in the sentence. Our example, could I have someone read the example, please?
Even though his parents are very mean, Thomas is a sunny person.
All right, there we go. So I actually bolded this one, so that's already obvious. But sunny is our unknown word, right? And then we have his parents are very mean. So in this case, these will be our antonyms. So in that case, what do you think sunny means?
Good.
Good, yes, that's exactly it. Just overall a very kind person. So in this case, this was another example. The restaurant gives people minuscule food, unlike my mom who gives us a lot of food. So we can say the opposite of minuscule is a lot, right? So our last one is synonyms, all right? So synonyms is the opposite of antonyms. basically words have the same meaning. So let's see, we have the example. The church is colossal. It's so tall that it can touch the clouds. And so I'm afraid we're running out of time. So we're gonna cut this short here, but don't worry, we're gonna keep on practicing this. And so that's gonna be our next part. I have these worksheets that you're all gonna be working on, and you're going to be practicing these context clues. If you get stuck, please remember that you can always ask me. Okay? All right.
Thank you.